Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about someone truly revolutionary, Jane Goodall. She didn't just study the natural world, she completely changed how we see ourselves in it.
Okay, so to really get what she did, you have to understand what science was like before her. The general view is that animals were basically biological robots, just running on instinct, no thoughts, no feelings. Jane Goodall came along and just shattered that idea. She forced us to see them for what they really are, thinking, feeling individuals with incredibly complex lives.
So, we're going to walk through her amazing journey by looking at 5 distinct revolutions she started. Each one built on the last, and each one, honestly, changed the world.
So, how did this all start? Well, it wasn't in some fancy university lab. Nope, it started with a childhood dream. She read books like Dr. Dolittle and just knew she had to go to Africa and live with animals.
Her path was anything but normal. She didn't have a college degree. She actually saved up money working as a secretary to finally get to Kenya. And that's where she met the famous Louis Leakey, who saw something special in her. He specifically wanted, and this is key, an untrained mind. Someone who wasn't bogged down by all the rigid scientific ideas of the time.
So she gets to Gombe, but her first few months were just tough. The chimps were terrified of her. They'd run away the second they saw her. But she had this incredible patience. Day after day, she'd just sit and watch from a distance. And eventually that persistence paid off, thanks to one very special chimpanzee.
And that brings us to her first huge breakthrough. An observation that, and I'm not exaggerating, sent shockwaves through the entire scientific community. It all came down to a chimp she decided to name David Greybeard. For hundreds of years, science thought it had a really solid, simple answer to this question. It was a core belief, really.
The answer was tools. We make them, we use them. That was the one thing that supposedly made humans unique, that drew a clear line in the sand between us and every other creature on the planet.
This quote pretty much sums up the earthquake her discovery caused. Jane watched David Greybeard take a twig, strip the leaves off it, in other words, make a tool, and then use it to fish termites out of a mound. When Louis Leakey heard the news, he sent that now famous telegram. Suddenly, that line in the sand just whoosh, washed away.
Her methods were just as radical as her discoveries. When she later went to Cambridge to get her PhD, the professors were actually horrified that she gave the chimps names. Names like Flo and Fegan. They told her to number them, to be objective, but she refused. She knew you couldn't understand their society without understanding them as individuals.
And her work showed that this number, 98.6%, meant so much more than just genetics. She saw mothers and children with deep bonds. She saw friendships, alliances, and even grief. There's this heartbreaking story of a young chimp named Flint, who, after his mother Flo died, just gave up. He died, seemingly, of a broken heart. Think about that. If they can feel grief, how can we treat them like unfeeling objects?
But her research wasn't all about revealing these incredible connections. She also discovered something much, much darker. A side of chimp nature that looked disturbingly familiar.
Yeah, from 1974 to 1978, she witnessed a war. A literal 4-year civil war. The community split into 2 groups, and then one group started forming these patrols, hunting down and systematically killing the members of the other group, chimps they had grown up with.
And what's so powerful here is the contrast between the cold data you see and her personal reaction. She was horrified. It was a chilling discovery for science, too. It suggested that tribalism, that capacity for us versus them violence, wasn't just a human problem. Its roots might go way deeper into our evolutionary past than anyone was comfortable admitting.
Seeing all of this, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the brutal, it all led to the next huge turning point in her life. She couldn't just be a scientist anymore. She had to become an activist.
The moment it all changed was at a conference in 1986. For the first time, she saw the big picture of what was happening to chimps outside of her little paradise in Gombe. She saw the deforestation, the poaching, the medical labs. She said she walked into that conference as a scientist and walked out as an activist. She knew she couldn't just watch anymore.
And her big idea was actually pretty simple, but it was genius. You can't save the animals without helping the people who live right there beside them. So our institute developed this program, TACARE. And instead of just coming in and making rules, they start by listening. They help communities find their own ways to thrive that don't involve destroying the environment.
And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. Hillsides around Gombe that were completely bare have been replanted. They've helped protect over 500,000 hectares of habitat.
And they've helped create new businesses, like beekeeping, so families can earn a living while actually helping the forest. It's a total win-win.
But with all the incredible science and conservation work, maybe her most powerful legacy is the global movement she inspired.
It all began in 1991 on her front porch in Tanzania. She was talking to 12 students who just felt completely hopeless about the state of the world. And right then and there, she started Roots and Shoots, a program all about empowering young people to take action in their own communities.
And from those 12 students, it's exploded. We're talking more than 150,000 groups all over the world. Her main message is always one of hope and empowerment. And it's a message she's still carrying herself, traveling 300 days a year, even well into her 90s. It's just incredible.
At the end of the day, Jane Goodall's life's work was never really just about chimpanzees, was it? It was about breaking down that wall between us and them, whether that's us and animals or even us and other people. She showed us how deeply we are connected to every other living thing on this planet.
Her story proves that one person with enough curiosity and compassion really can change everything. And that leaves all of us with a pretty powerful question to think about, doesn't it?